Several months ago, AVID dropped and discontinued their Pro Tools First, which was their free edition of Pro Tools, which they had it for quite a few years with lots of problems, and I do have several videos on all of those problems and the topics. If you care to watch them, they are on my channel. And just over a month ago, AVID reintroduced Pro Tools, this time called it Intro, their free edition of Pro Tools. Of course, limitations are expected for a free DAW, and I'm going to try to list those limitations as much as I can in this video without making it too long, but you can find out yourself on their website what the limitations are. It simply has 8 stereo or mono audio tracks, 8 MIDI tracks, and 8 instrument tracks. Well, MIDI tracks are pretty much useless because instrument tracks take over. MIDI is just a leftover from many years ago, unless you want to control some MIDI external devices as such, may be useful. So other than that, you've got basically 8 audio tracks and 8 instrument tracks. It says unlimited buses, comes with 24 and 2 auxiliary, which is fine. For a small demo production of music, that's really great. So before I talk about some of the problems that I've discovered today as I was playing around with it, let me talk about some of the good things that I've discovered, which did not exist in Pro Tools First. To my excitement, I found out that you can actually have any third-party plugin with no limitations. But this was really great. And I don't have that many AAX plugins on my laptop, which I'm demonstrating here. But looking at my audio suite, go to EQ, I've got already detected Nectar and Neutron and Ozone that I have installed on this laptop. I guess when I was installing it, I selected the AAX plugins as well, so which is really great. And I also have Waves plugin, like Waves Max Volume, which appeared. I don't have many Waves plugins, so that's one of them that I can see. And another one that I can see in Arbus again. This is Waves plugin. And anything else? Lo-Fi Space as well, yep. And Clarity, which is from Waves as well. So I'm just going to run that. There we go. It works. So if you have even free AAX plugins, then it will run in Pro Tools Intro. This is really fantastic. That also means at the same time, not just the plugins, if I add, let's say, a new track, I'm going to call it an instrument track. Let's make that stereo. And let's see if we can add multi-channel plugin, instrument. What do we have? All my plugins there. Look, AAS is there, Analog Lab is there, Complete is there, and even Labs. So this is fantastic news. I'm actually really quite happy. Let's give it a try. Or maybe even Lounge Lizard is there. Oh, it's fantastic. So you can bring in all your instruments, and you've got 8 tracks of it. So you can bring in your drum. You can bring in your other VST plugins, and as you can see, one VST plugin here, and it will work. I mean, previously you couldn't do that. This is actually much better than the PreSonus Studio One Prime edition, which is the free edition. Now, Prime has no limitation of audio tracks and MIDI tracks, but you cannot bring in any third-party plugins or even instruments. Here, you can. This is really fantastic and enjoyable feature. I'm going to try to keep this video short as possible, so I'm not going to demonstrate every new thing that's been added in here. And another great thing, which is really great, is that you can now save all your sessions on your local hard drive. Okay, so let's go. Save as. That's my hard drive. So no more of this cloud, save to the cloud, and 3 projects, and then they change it into one, saving locally, but still convoluted. That BS that they had in Pro Tools First. This one, you can actually save your session on your hard drive, no limit of how many projects you've got, how many different songs you've got. And at the same time, because it's a session and it's a Pro Tools session, you can share those sessions with other Pro Tools users, whether they Pro Tools intro or artist or professional. And you can work the other way around as well. So someone which is recording in Pro Tools artist or Pro Tools professional, and they send you their session, you can open it up, but you will only be able to open up the first 8 audio tracks and the first 8 MIDI tracks, and it will discard the rest of them. So that's obviously part of the limitations. But if you are collaborating with other Pro Tools intro users, then you can just share the session and not a problem. So there's no limitation of how many songs you can have, and they are saved on your hard drive. No more of this Cloud 9 bullshit. Okay, that's really great news. Thank you, AVID. Now, looking at the menus, there are a lot of options here that did not exist in the Pro Tools first edition. A lot of features that you can use. Now, one other thing I can also say is that, see at the bottom here, it's got Melodyne. So if I just go into my test recording, I click on there, select it, and I go to Melodyne. I have Melodyne installed. This is a full edition of Melodyne that I have installed on this laptop. It doesn't come with Melodyne. I have to stress that one out. So if you have either trial edition or full edition of Melodyne, it actually works. I didn't have to do anything. It was already there. And I can just go to my audio clip and say, hey, right click on that and say Melodyne, and let's say edit. And he detected my voice, and I can adjust and play around. It is ARA too, so no problem of having it there. As you can see, it follows, the cursor follows, and when I play, it will play. Yep, as you can see, it will play, and I can adjust however you want. So Melodyne works in Pro Tools Intro, because Pro Tools Intro now supports, external plugins. Well done, AVID. Now, before I mentioned one of the really, really weird limitations, let me go into my setup. Going to my hardware, I have my Tascam Model 12 selected as ASIO driver. No problems there. It does work. And let's go to setup and my playback engine. As you can see, it's my model mixer, and I can adjust things here. One thing I like it is dynamic plugin processing. So plugins only use CPU resources when processing audio. So if you have audio tracks which are muted or plugins are in bypass, then checking this checkbox, that means it will reduce CPU usage. Fantastic. And another great thing which I had not seen in previous Pro Tools first is the I/O matrix. Here you've got inputs, and they are matrix to the actual analog inputs. So here are my 12 inputs from my Tascam Model 12, and here I can have stereo in 1 and 2 or mono 1 and 2, and this was automatically set up. I didn't have to set up anything, which is really, really great. And same with the output. My audio interface has 10 outputs, and here all the outputs are set up. And these are the buses that you can just route audio through. And it does have hardware inserts as well. So that's great. I have not seen this in Pro Tools first. This is really great news. If you are using external hardware, you can set hardware inserts into your tracks or your master track, however. And here you can actually calculate and put in your latency of your hardware, so it works correctly. So adjust it accordingly. This is really, really great. And you can even import different hardware setups. As you can see, I saved mine as well, Tascam Model 12. So whenever I have a new project and I want to load the same I/O setup, I can just import it and everything will be set up as always, like a template. This is really great. This is something new, did not exist, and this is really, really helpful. because you can create a new path. And I'm going to, let's say that one, mono. I'm going to call this, let's call it mic. Okay. Mic AKG. Okay. And that's, and my AKG mic is always sitting on, let's say, input 2. Let me drag that into there. They end up out here. So you drag them and you can drag them out and you can drag it. Oops. Then you can drag on which channel you want. So every time I select mic AKG, it will automatically select input 2 on my analog hardware, because that's where my physical connection is of my AKG microphone. You can also add, let's say, another one called guitar. This is where I normally plug my guitar, right? So I can drag and say I normally plug my guitar on input 1. Okay, so now on my audio track, if I go into make it easier to understand, if I go in here, my second track, I can select from my interface, I want my AKG. Easy. And looking on the screen, you can actually see that what that input is. And on my channel 3, I want that to be my guitar. And at the same time, now remember guitar was on 1, I can still select 1, input 1. So these two tracks will actually record the same information. But 1 makes more sense because I said the guitar, and I always plug my guitar input 1. Okay, so this is fantastic, make it so much easier and really, really great. I'm quite impressed. Quite impressed. It's got a lot of things in here that it did not exist before. As I said, I haven't searched every single thing. Probably in the future, I might make a few more videos of any new features that I find. Now, one big major thing that I found as I was testing it. Here, if we go into our setup and the I/O, now, according to AVID's website, Pro Tools Intro only supports 4 simultaneous input recording and 4 simultaneous outputs. So that means 2 stereo outputs. Okay? Even though my audio interface has 12 inputs, it's not like you can select 4 of them and then record 4. It only supports the first 4 physical analog inputs of your audio interface. So if you have a microphone connected to guitar, or let's say my microphone is input 5 and my guitar is input 7, guess what? It won't record. Same with the output. I normally like my outputs, my main output indicated by this speaker icon as monitor part. If I select this to my 9 and 10, because on my Tascam Model 12, 9 and 10 is a stereo fader, and that's what I have set up in every other DAW. So one fader controls my monitoring playback from my DAW. Guess what? It doesn't work. I can't listen to it. The only time I can listen to it if I have that at either out 1 and 2 or out 3 and 4. Even though these things exist. See, unlike in other DAW, let's say an example I can give is PreSonus Studio One, the Prime Edition, which has 2 inputs and 2 outputs. But those 2 inputs can be any of the 2 inputs of your audio interface. So if you have audio interface, which is quite common to have 8 inputs and 8 outputs, in Pro Tools Intro, only the first inputs are possible. The other 4, not possible. Where in Prime example, the Studio One Prime example, you can select any of those inputs, but you can't add more than 2. Like here, let's say if you have all these checkboxes available, so this will be one option, and this will be another option. This will be another option. So for some reason, AVID decided only the first 4 to be available and only the first 4 to be available. So might as well have them turned off. So that's the only 4 inputs you can record. So I thought I'll mention that. So if you're struggling to record your drums with 4 microphones, They got to be the first 4 inputs. Anyway, this video has been long enough, and I'll try to make more videos in the future as I discover more of the new features available in Pro Tools Intro, which did not exist in Pro Tools First, and any other small quirks and things which make it really frustrating to use this DAW. Make sure you subscribe, that way you get notified as soon as I upload any new videos. And if this video was helpful and informative, give it a like and share, and I'll catch up with you next time. Thanks for watching and have a great time making music. Cheerio.